Okay, friends, welcome back to another month here at the Mixing Academy. I want to thank you so much for joining me this month. We are in, what are we in? We are in February, March. We are in April 2026. We are back in the box this time. Last month, we were doing everything on the console with hardware. We are back in the box this time. We're going to do things a little bit different than we did the last time we were in the box, which I think is pretty cool. This is going to be a fun song. So this month, we're mixing a song by Laini and the Wildfire, which is like a pop act local here in Connecticut. My good friend Mark is the guitar player and engineer. We've done some Laini and the Wildfire on the YouTube channel in the past. This is called Where the Wind Blows. This is going to be really cool. So check out Laini and the Wildfire. Search them up on YouTube. They got a lot of cool YouTube videos and such. Fairly small session, 38 tracks. I'm going to walk you through the setup and tell you what we're going to do a little bit different this time to kind of give you some more workflow tips and ideas and things that you may want to try to incorporate. When we're in the box, I have this flexibility because we can use plugins. When I'm doing analog, we're kind of locked into the SSL and the hardware, right? Where this time we could do things a little different every time we're in the box because we have more flexibility. So 38 tracks, fairly small session. Let me show you how I set it up here. Just like we talked about in one of the coaching calls. Again, when I work in the box, I tend to try to set it up like I was working on the SSL here. In that, I usually try to keep everything to 32 tracks if at all possible. Sometimes I'll spill over into 40 tracks, but I never go over 40. I will comp and group things in the box in order to do that. This time we have a total of 38 single tracks, and I didn't do any comping at all. Just because we're in the box, 32, 38, I didn't really need to do that. Typically, I would group the kicks together, as you've seen before, and bring it out to one fade, or I'd group the snares together. You can still do that, but because the session isn't very big, I didn't do that. But we have a busing system here before we get to the plugins. We have a busing system, so we have a drums and all of our percussion here, bass, and then our busing is in the center of the session, like it's in the center of my console. We got a drum bus, percussion, bass, guitars, keys, lead vocals, background vocals. Okay, so I have my groups in the center of my console, just like I have it on the SSL. You could always put them at the end, however you want to set that up. Now, a couple of things we're going to do differently this time around in the box, which is kind of cool. Number one is we're going to go back to something that I used to do, and I used to teach this in the box all the time. Once I moved to working more analog, I found less need to do this, but some people have asked me about it in the past. So I want to just show you this idea, which is way easier to do in the box than it is for me to do on the console. And that's doing not only parallel compression on drums, which I always do on the console, but doing parallel compression on all the different groupings of instruments. So however many buses I have, I duplicate that for parallel compression. And you'll see that down here at the end of the mixer here in purple. So we have a parallel drums, P percussion, which is parallel percussion, bass, guitars, keys, lead vocals, background vocals, which mimic my buses here. Okay. And I'll show you this where we'll send all of our groupings of instruments to our parallel tracks, and we'll just kind of tuck them in underneath to give it a little bit more full sound. Now, let's talk about what we're going to do for plugins this month. So we're going to do a couple of things. Again, one of the things that came up in the coaching call was, again, oddly enough, or not oddly enough, interestingly enough, the 15 members that are in the pro level members, we have a mixture of folks there in their workflows and their tools. I would say about a third of them completely in the box. I don't think any of them is with stock plugins. They're all using third-party plugins of some sort. And most of them are trying to emulate the analog workflow in the box, which I'm going to show you that here. This will be great for not only, again, the pro level members will already have discussed this with me in person at great length, but for the advanced level and for the basic level members, how do you achieve the same kind of workflow and get close to this analog sound in the box? We're going to do that this time around. And then we have a third of our pro level members that are somewhere in the middle of hybrid, where some of them have just a master bus hardware chain. Some of them have a master bus and some other additional pieces of gear that they might run key elements through. And then the other third are ones that are in the box right now, but they're already talking about in the coaching calls how they want to get their first piece of hardware, and they're looking to move in that direction because not only have they heard a lot about it, they've heard other members and myself talk about the benefits of using some analog if you have the budget and you're inclined to do so, but also now that they've seen a few mixes now, and this is the beauty of the Academy, where some of the stuff that I mix, you know, one month I mix in all analog and the other month I'm mixing all in the box, and there is a different sound. It's completely different. And some of them are starting to see those differences and hear those differences. And that's part of the Academy here too, is to show you the different tools and show you what's possible. It doesn't mean that one way is better than another. It just means that one sounds different. And you don't have to go all the way down the rabbit hole of tons of hardware and go out and buy a console. You could, but you don't have to. And you can, or, you know, you can kind of go truly hybrid, which is mostly in the box with some critical pieces of gear that really make an impact. So in all of those kinds of discussions, I thought, because we're in the box this time again, I want to try to set this up for folks that want to stay in the box, but want to try to get to the analog workflow. And we're using some different plugins that I haven't used in a while, and we're using some different techniques that I haven't done in a while, like the parallel compression on everything. But for plugins, here's what we're going to do. So first thing we're going to do is I'm using Auto Align 2. We use that on every mix. If you saw the setup videos, that's what we do. But one of the things that I don't always do, let me move it, it came on the wrong screen, is on every track, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a multi-track tape machine. Now, this is something you may want to try. If you have a modern day computer or you're running native stuff, you won't have a problem doing this on 38 tracks, unless you're using something like the IK multimedia tape machines. Those are very CPU heavy. But I'm using the Universal Audio Studio 8800, which is a native plugin. You can use the Slate Digital virtual tape machines or any tape machine that you have or you like. Where I'm putting this as the first plugin that the signal hits across all of the tracks after Auto Align, okay? This is going to set, and you're going to hear the difference of this is going to give you that instant analog kind of sound before we ever even hit our console, or in our case, our channel strip. Now, in studios, a lot of studios did it this way. I mean, this was not every studio recorded this way, or does record this way, not so much anymore. But in the good old days, they would have multi-track tape machines. This is a 16-channel tape machine. Or they may have two of those put together, but 16 tracks, they would hit tape off the live floor before they hit the desk. And out of the desk, they would hit a 2-track tape machine. So we're going to mimic that. This is really cool. So this is a Studio 800. I'm using the GP9 on this, and we'll adjust it as we go. We're using 30 IPS per second for now. GP9 is going to give us a little bit more of a modern sound, which is what we kind of want to go for. And then for our channel strip this month, we're going to go to the kit plugins, the API. This is out of Blackbird Studios. This is the BB-A5, which is John McBride's API console. Okay, so this is a really simple kind of a channel strip where we have filters here, a preamp section. Oops. Wrong key. And then we have a simple EQ here, but we have 3 different styles of EQ. We have the 55A, we have the, what's it say? 5SL, and then we have the 560. So these are the here's the 3 different styles of API. You got the 3-band, you got the 4-band, you got the graphic, which is kind of cool. And we'll switch those up as we go along when we have our master fader. And then they modeled the analog, the hum inside of the console, which I've turned on. And then I put the hum level on its lowest settings. So we always will have some hum here. And then they've even modeled the master bus if you were going to use this on a master bus. So that's the first 2 plugins we're going to hit before we do anything else. Now, the other thing that I want you to try to do, if you want to follow along for the challenge, is again, I'm going to try to set this up in a way like I'm doing with just the tools I have here in the analog world, although I'm not using an SSL channel strip and I don't have a multi-track tape machine. But what I want you to try to do, again, if you want to try to mimic this workflow, and most importantly, the sounds, is you want to limit your tools. Right? So get yourself a multi-track, get yourself a tape machine that you can put on all your tracks if you want. Definitely pick yourself a channel strip. It could be any one. But then when we go beyond that, we're only going to try to use maybe additional pieces of hardware on certain elements of the mix, but we're going to limit ourselves to the amount of pieces that we can choose. Because I have a limitation of what I can choose behind me. We're not going to throw everything at the kitchen sink. I would say, pick yourself a couple of like a pair of 1176s, grab yourself an LA2A, grab yourself a Pultec EQ, maybe a Fairchild if you want. Limit yourself to 8 or 10 pieces of gear, because that's all you have beyond your channel strip and your tape machine if you choose to use it. to where you can sprinkle them around and give those certain elements a certain uniqueness, color, and tonal characteristic if you need it, or if you choose to need it, throughout your mix. Okay. Everybody that I've ever taught this concept to, this kind of working in the digital domain and trying to mimic the analog style workflow, once they get the hang of it, they always say to me how much they love it. Their mixes come together so much faster. Project to project sounds more consistent and cohesive, and they like the workflow much more than just having a random bunch of plugins throughout their session and throwing everything at the kitchen sink. Remember, less is more in mixing, more times than not. At least that's how I've always approached it. Okay. I don't like to overcomplicate things. Let's keep it simple. When you try to overcomplicate things, that's when things get messy. Okay. So that's our main layout here. Now on the master bus, again, we're going to mix into stuff. So we're going to start off with just an SSL bus compressor. I could have used an API because I'm using an API channel strip, but I wanted to try to mimic my hardware chain in plugins. So I'm using an SSL bus plus, we're using an SSL universal audio bus compressor. 10 millisecond attack, auto release, a little bit of a side chain. That's it. We're just touching the needle, 2-3 dB. Okay, that's the first plugin. Second plugin that we're going to use is we're going to use a Pultec on the master bus because I use the Empress EQ, which is a modern style Pultec. And I'm setting the settings similarly, almost exactly the same as I do on the Empress when I first start a mixing into it. A little bit of a boost at 30 dB with a little bit of attenuation at the same time, a little bit of boost at 12K. Also, because I also have a mid-band on my Empress EQ, which you don't have in the plugin, I'm adding the mid-band here, the MEQ5, and at 700 hertz, no, right here, 700 hertz peak, I'm boosting a couple of dB. I do that. These are very broad curves here to give us a little bit of mid-range warmth, okay? And then from there, we're gonna go to our last tape machine. We're gonna use, again, another universal audio. We're gonna use the Oxide tape machine just because I like it. It adds a little bit more compression and a little bit more color. I will typically use a tape machine plugin in the box, even when I'm mixing with the console. But again, to try to make up for some of the lack of real analog, this is given to give us a little bit more warmth there. We're going to start on drums. And let's see, we're just lowering all the faders. We're just going to start from scratch. Okay. So drum bus, I wanted to put a drum bus compressor on there before we start mixing. So I just picked the API 2500 by UA only because, well, we're using the KIT, API channel strip, so why not use the 2500? So I'm just using basic, drum compression settings, 2-to-1 ratio, slow attack, fast release. Maybe we'll mess with some of the thrust stuff in a bit, but just to give us some stuff there. And then also on all the buses, I did put the API EQ here, or, the channel strip. We may use it for just the EQ. We'll see. Well, we're just going to use it there, leave it there. So I lowered everything. We're going to start with our kick drum. We have a kick and a kick sample, right? So let's see what we got here. Really nice sample, nice and tight and thick. Remember, the kick drum's not going to be overbearing in this. It'll probably start off that way because that's what I always do, but we'll end up lowering it. Anyway, this one here, let's just take a look at the inside kick here. So remember, we're going to hit tape on all of this. I mean, listen to what that does. I mean, we could probably put a gate on here, but we really don't need to. Okay, we're hitting the preamp on all of these just a little bit to give it a little bit of that preamp color. Not able to carve out what I want there. Maybe I try a different EQ here. Remember, we have a few different EQs we can use here. I'm looking for something around, maybe around... Sticking out 500 in about, what is that, 220? I could barely see that number. It's so small. Just to get rid of some of that hollowness there. I'm going to bring a little, well, I'm actually going to blend it in with the other one. I'm just going to leave that like this for now. We'll do a low cut. I'm going to let this one do the low end a little bit here. So we're going to get down to about 50. Come on. And a little bit of top too. Okay, so we'll blend these together as things kind of come up. I want to hit the tape pretty good there. Okay, now let's go over here. Okay, a little bit of brightness, a little bit, and then a little bit of a low cut. The real snare sound is going to come from the sample, right? So we're going to bring this in. A little bit more on the preamp here. Now I'm going to put a little bit more weight into this. I'm going to try around 100 hertz. Let's see. Just 2 dB at 100. You can already hear that thickness that we were talking about in the reference. We'll go back and listen to that, by the way. Okay, so that's just the sample one sample. I want to try something because again, we're only listening to kick and snare. Once you start blending everything in, I want to just try something here. On trigger here, I want to drop in a sample here and try something. Let's bring this up. Let's solo this. Oh. Brings in a little bit more low end, which I don't know how much we need. Let's see. Okay, I'm kind of liking that snare so far. I got to get Acon Digital out, boys. And girls, I don't like the kick drum and the overheads. It brings too much room. It takes away the tightness of it. Oh, I hate that. Hate it, hate it, hate it. Where is it? Acon Digital. I got to get rid of it now. I got to get rid of the kick drum in this damn thing. Let me solo this up. Same thing in the damn over rooms. I got to get rid of them. Let's just drag this over. This allows me to bring me a little more overheads and a little more room without the kick drum getting in the way, to where it sounds too roomy and too boomy for the kick. And then I got to turn up the original mics, and this is how you get out of balance. So again, I want to keep the kick dry and thick. It's going to be a little laid back, I realize. But by getting them out of the way in the overheads in the rooms, that's going to help allow me to use the direct mics more. I want to work on bass right now before we get to percussion. Normally I would use a Pultec, like on my hardware for this. I need something with 100, everything with 100 hertz in it. I want to boost 100. Let's go to this one, the 4-band. Sure we do, right here. Okay, I need to compress this now a little bit to thicken it up. So now what I'm thinking about for compression, I want this to be, it's already got some deep thickness to it. I don't think I want something too based. Too based is going to roll off the top. I want something a little bit, I don't want to make it too much more fat, 'cause it's already fat. I'm thinking something like an 1176 would do a nice job. We could grab UA, really doesn't matter. Maybe the blue stripe, because that's going to may give us a little bit more top end if we want. Let's get the blue stripe out. So I'm hitting the preamp a little harder on the API just to give us a little bit more grit. I know the snare is going to be that loud. I know it's going to be. Listen to those drums come alive with this API. I mean, it's a great freaking compressor, man. It's another one. I borrowed one in hardware from a friend. Did a video years ago and sent it back to him. It was really cool. Almost considered buying a hardware one. They're great. And out of all the API 2500 plugins I have, the UA one is the one I like more. But just listen to what it does when I take it away. We're only doing what? What are we doing here? A couple of dB? Notice I'm not using the Oxford Inflator, and I'm not using the K stereo, which I should be using both of those. Let's throw those on here before we end this video. Because that's what I do in my hardware setup, and that K stereo is going to give us the width and some of the width that we want, because we know we want the mix to be wide. And it's going to give us a little bit of ambience back. Unfortunately, that's not a native plugin for everyone playing at home. Where is it? Here it is. So we want that case stereo in here and the oxygen inflator as well. We got to bring it in, boys. We got to bring it in. Probably going to do that right after I hit, before or after I hit tape. Probably before I hit tape. Digging it, and now I need the case stereo. That's going to be right before we hit the tape. Actually, it could be after. That doesn't matter. Oh, what did I do? Didn't want to do that. There we go. This really helps the snare and put some space around the snare. Remember we talked about how we didn't want to use like the UAD Sound City or anything like that. I might use a reverb on the snare. This might be enough. And I know it's on the stereo bus, but okay. I think we're good now. I feel better now that I got my full stereo master bus back in play here. Let me expand this a little. Okay, next section, we'll come back, we'll work on percussion. I think we're in a good spot right now. We got to build it before we can really tell, but I'm kind of digging where we are.